Alright, to get started on this project, I've launched Adobe Animate and we're going to create a new ActionScript 3 file. The reason I choose ActionScript 3 is because it handles audio files a little bit better on the playback versus an HTML5 canvas. So if you're ever having to do something that's got a lot of audio to it, working in ActionScript 3 tends to work a little bit better. Now to change up the size of my document, since I didn't set it up from the beginning, we can go to our Properties panel. We'll keep the frames per second at 24, but change the size of it to 1280. Oops, not that. 1280 for the width and 720 for the height. That'll give us a nice large screen. I'm going to zoom in so it fits my window so I can see everything. Looks good. Now we need to import some stuff to our library. I'm going to open up my library panel and you can see there's nothing here. So we'll go to File, Import, and Import to Library. And the first thing we need to choose is one of our poems. If you can't select any of your poems, since they're all MP3 files, they should import. But if they're all grayed out, open up your options and make sure you've enabled all file formats. Sometimes if you have a specific format, like if I had GIF images, notice now I can't select any of the MP3s because it's only looking for GIFs. But if we do all of them, this will give me that one. I'm going to choose the To a Mouse MP3, click Open, and you can see it's now imported to our library from here. To add it to our playable desk, we'll click and drag to the stage. It looks like nothing's happened, but if you look down in our timeline, under Layer 1, I get a little dash here. It's starting to show a preview of the audio. To see the rest of the audio, in order to have it play for more frames or more time, I'm just going to click farther along the timeline, usually around 150 frames, then press F5 to add a new blank frame, just a regular frame there, and you can see the rest of the audio waveform is starting to show up. While we're working in Layer 1, let's double-click the name of it. We'll call this Layer Audio. And I'm going to hold down Control and click on the layer and open up the properties. And let's change the layer height to 300%. When you change the layer height like this, it makes it a little bit easier to see the waveform and to break it down into to the specific sounds that are made. The final thing we need to do is to make sure we can hear the audio as we scrub through. If I was to just play it from the beginning,
To a mouse,
it's playing pretty good. But what I want to be able to do is to click on my playhead and scrub back and forth and hear the sounds. Well, I can't really hear it right now. If this is happening to you, here's how to fix it. If you select the audio layer file, oops, I've also got it selected in my library, so here's the To a Mouse MP3. Go to your Properties panel. Under the Sound tab, change the name of it, make sure To a Mouse is selected, change the sync from event to stream. With it streaming, this means it'll play as it's constantly streaming through your selection. Now when I click and drag, I can go back and forth over that area and I can hear what it sounds like as I'm streaming the play. With this setup, we can lock down our layer and let's import our different character settings. I'm going to make a new layer. This new layer, I'll call it Background. And we're going to put this below our audio layer. I always like to have my audio at the top. To import our characters, again, I'll go to my library panel, then go to File, Import to the library. And I'm going to back up and find one of our male characters. So here's lipsyncmin.ai. When I say open, I'll give it a second to think about it. This will open up some of our specific things that we can import, some of our advanced options. We don't really need to change up any of these. So if this comes up, we'll just say import, and that'll place it directly into our layer. To choose a specific person, we're going to double click on the, oops, not the name of it, but the actual icon symbol. And this will go into edit mode. And now I can click and drag around and actually find the different parts that I want to keep. The first one I want to do, I've got my selection tools to click on this background piece. So I've got only it selected. Hold down Control, click on it, and we want to convert this background to a symbol. The kind of symbol that we want will be a graphic. I'm going to give it the name of background. And just to make it a little bit simple, I'm going to change my registration to be centered. Everything else, we don't have to worry about any of these advanced parts, just keeping it a graphic. We'll say OK. And now you can see I've got a background graphic already saved. Let's scroll down and choose a specific person. Since mine is kind of about working on a farm, I'm going to choose this guy for his head. Again, Control and click, and we will choose Convert to Symbol. Change the name of the symbol. In this case, it's his head. The type is a graphic. Center registration. We'll say OK. That's now been added to here. Let's get a body. I like this body. Control and click on it. Convert that to a symbol. Give it a name. Again, the type is graphic. We'll say OK. And lastly, we need to convert a symbol for each of these lips. And this will take a little bit of time, but give it the name of whatever lip position it is. So for this first one, here's rest. We'll select this one, convert it to a symbol. Say OK. Convert this one to a symbol. AEI. And say OK. It is very important that you have that as the name because it makes it a lot easier to get it whenever we start swapping them up. Here's an upper O. Here's an U. A U. E. This one's used a lot. This particular mouthpiece has a lot of different hard glottal type symbols. So C, D, G, K, N, S, T, X, Y, and Z. We'll say OK. And this is a closed mouth symbol for making the beginning of B and N and P. We'll say OK. I'm going to pause it and load up the rest of these so you don't have to watch me do the rest of them. Alright, now that I've finished it up, you can go over to our layers, or excuse me, our library, and you can see I've got different symbols for all the mouth positions, and also a different symbol for the body and the head, and the background as well. Oops, let's go back to our library. We can go back to our scene by clicking the word Scene 1. This will take us to our main table. And let's actually load up and start building our character. Before I do this, let's kind of clean up the areas that we have here. Since I've got different lip-syncing mouth movements, I'm going to create a new folder. We'll call this Lips. Let's put all of our lip characters inside of there. AEI. Click on those, drag them into lips. Now they're nice and nested into here. I can even do the same thing for the body. Let's make a new folder. Oops, already taken. Call it man's body. And we'll do the head, body, and I'll even put the background inside of here. Looks like I forgot to put rest inside of the lips. Just makes it a little bit easier to find exactly what I need. Okay, so let's build it out. I've got my background layer selected. Make sure your playhead is on the first frame. And then I'm going to click on the background and drag it onto my stage. And we're just going to center this up. For the most part, this background image isn't going to move. So I'll lock down that layer in my timeline. Let's make a new one on top of this one. We'll call this the figure, or the person, or the speaker, whoever you want to call it. I'll put his head down right about here. And let's also give him a body. Since I want his body to be behind his head, maybe I'll select the head and let's bring it to the front. Go to Arrange, bring it to front. Now it's popped right on top of there. Since I'm not going to be animating any more of his body, this is he's going to stay perfectly still. I'll lock down his layer as well, and then finally make one last layer, and we'll call this the lips layer. On the lips layer, I'm going to drag on just the resting position. I like to start with this one because it's at rest. We'll kind of nudge it up to be right there. And all other lip positions will be centered right there on his mouth. Later on, if I need to move it around, that's okay. But for the most part, we're going to start off with the resting position. Remember, if you create any other kind of animated parts for his eyes or his eyebrows or maybe even his beard or chin, those need to be in their own separate layer and saved as their own separate symbols as well. They'll need to be animated separately. I'm just going to deal with animating the lips for the next part. Now that we've got it set up, let's go ahead and save our document and we'll move into making the lip transitions.